Hello and welcome. I'm James A. Zimoha and you're watching A News. Let's see your headlines. Trump says U.S. will not leave Iran early as he wants to avoid problems reappearing in the future. U.S. to withdraw 5,000 troops from Germany, according to officials. And the United States to raise tariffs on EU cars by 25%. Trump says the United States will not leave its confrontation with Iran early, warning that a premature withdrawal could allow the problem to return in the future. He also says he is not satisfied with Iran's latest proposal as negotiations continue but remain stalled.
And we're going to continue.
U.S. President Donald Trump said on Friday that U.S. hostilities with Iran have terminated, citing the ongoing ceasefire and arguing he does not need congressional authorization under the War Powers Resolution. In a letter to lawmakers, Trump said there has been no exchange of fire since early April, effectively pausing the 60-day deadline for military approval. That interpretation, however, has been challenged by members of Congress who say the requirement still applies. Despite declaring hostilities over, Trump made clear the standoff is unresolved.
We're just winning. If it were a fight, they'd stop it. If this were a fight, they'd stop it. You know that expression, it's true. But they're not coming through with the kind of deal that we have to have, and we're going to get this thing done properly. We're not going to leave early and then have the problem arise in 3 more years.
Trump confirmed negotiations with Tehran are ongoing, but said he is dissatisfied with the latest proposal delivered through intermediaries. He continued to frame the situation as a strategic success, calling it a big victory, and saying the United States holds the upper hand both militarily and in negotiations.
But we just had a conversation with Iran. Let's see what happens. But I would say that I am not happy.
Trump also sought to reassure concerns about U.S. military readiness, saying weapons stockpiles are strong and even larger than before the conflict, with resources positioned globally. He dismissed concerns over the legal deadline, suggesting the requirement is widely viewed as unconstitutional and that the ceasefire provides additional time. Meanwhile, Reuters reports Trump is considering a long-term naval blockade of Iran to curb oil exports, though no final decision has been made. U.S. officials say United States Central Command is preparing options ranging from limited strikes to securing shipping routes in the Strait of Hormuz. Separately, the United States Department of the Treasury warned that any payments to Iran for passage through the strait could trigger sanctions, including those labelled as humanitarian. For now, the ceasefire remains in place, but with negotiations stalled and pressure tactics intensifying, the path toward a final agreement remains uncertain.
Now, the Pentagon has revealed that military operations in Iran have cost taxpayers $25 billion as President Trump presents a stark choice between a new deal or renewed strikes. Join us now to discuss this is Melih Demirtaş, political analyst and former diplomat, joining us from Ankara, Turkey. Thank you for joining us, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Ozma, for having me.
Now, the Pentagon admits the war has cost $25 billion so far. Is this price tag sustainable, or is it already becoming a political and economic liability for the American people?
Sure, it is an important problem nowadays, also in the American public opinion. If you look at the latest news against these Democrats, the Republicans, of course, start to lose an important ground. But I think they already calculated this result, Mr. Azimov, because please, this first events in 2001 with 9/11, we just saw the same tactics from the side of United States against many countries, from Afghanistan to Iraq. Of course, now after the Israeli movements, we just see the same maybe aggressive attitude from the United States now against Iran. And this is a huge money, of course, for many economies in the world. But for the United States calculations, I think this Republican tactics for the last 30 years, it has not changed. And we will see, I think, the escalation not so easy because of this maybe calculated move of Republicans. And some more escalations and some more maybe new aggressions will continue unfortunately, after this bold attitude of Mr. Trump and also his cabinet, I mean, Mr. Hexet's, Mr. Rubio's latest statements, we are really sorry to see that they do not want to come. They do not want to continue these new talks in Islamabad, in Pakistan. But we still hope, as the regional actors, as the diplomatic arguments, I mean, the defenders of these diplomatic solutions. But still, I think Mr. Trump and maybe Israel still have another plans, and we will see what will be these plans for this region. I mean, this will be not maybe stability and peaceful atmosphere for this coming terms. I'm really afraid of this.
Now, speaking about escalation, President Trump claims he only has two options left: a new peace deal or permanent military action. What's your take?
I think the second one's always underlined by this cabinet. I mean, Mr. Trump's, in his especially second term, in the beginning of his second term in 2025, we saw very similar arguments to many other countries. Think about the Venezuela case. Think about other countries, I mean, who are really against the United States interests. But I think the number one enemy, quote unquote, has been always this Iranian maybe side. And yes, we will not maybe see in this shorter term, not this de-escalation of these arguments, but still, as maybe as defenders, as I said, this diplomacy, we really hope this de-escalation. But still, we have many question marks because the events is like the chain of developments, Mr. Asimov. And as I said, starting from this 9/11 and the 7th October events, these are like this interconnected or interrelated strategy of the United States-Israel line. And many actors are really having some negative solutions and negative maybe futures because of this maybe agenda of United States and Israel.
That was Melih Demirtaş, political analyst and former diplomat, joining us from Ankara, Turkey. Thank you for joining us, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Asma.
More than 100 pro-Palestinian activists arrived on the Greek island of Crete after Israel stopped their aid flotilla at sea. The flotilla had been sailing to Gaza to deliver humanitarian aid, but was intercepted by Israeli forces. At the airport, the activists were met by diplomats and supporters. They called for the release of 2 detained crew members. Organizers said the flotilla left Spain in April and aimed to bring aid to Gaza. Israel has not commented on the allegations. Some activists claimed they were not given food or water after being detained. In total, 168 people were transferred to Greece and brought ashore.
It were 2 days of violence. It were 2 days of violence against us. They didn't bring us food. They didn't bring us water. They didn't bring us medicine. They kept us laying down in the water. They didn't have space for us to lay down. And this is one of the demonstrations of the Israelis' crimes against humanity and against the Palestinians and also against all the people that fight for the Palestinians nowadays.
Psychologically, they tortured us. Then we stayed in the matters, in the containers. Then that was a torture, and they beat us a little bit. But for our comrades who stays with the Zionist entity, Saif, Ebu Keshkek, and Tiago, we demand immediate liberation.
Now, tensions are rising once again between Washington and Berlin. The U.S. decision to reduce its military presence in Germany has brought Donald Trump's tough stance towards European allies back into focus. Disagreements over the Iran war are also exposing new divisions within NATO.
The United States is preparing to withdraw 5,000 troops from Germany. The decision comes amid rising tensions between Washington and Berlin over the war with Iran. Disagreements between US President Donald Trump and German Chancellor Friedrich Merz have intensified in recent days. Merz said the United States had been humiliated in talks with Iran. Trump later strongly criticized him. Pentagon spokesman Sean Parnell said the decision was made on the orders of Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth. The troop withdrawal is expected to be completed within 6 to 12 months. More than 36,000 US troops are currently stationed in Germany. The country hosts America's largest military presence in Europe. Trump also criticised Italy and Spain, saying they had failed to support the United States during the Iran conflict. He suggested troops could also be withdrawn from those countries in the future. Merz, meanwhile, said the United States had no clear strategy on Iran. He argued that Tehran was dragging out negotiations while Washington failed to achieve results. In response, Trump wrote on social media that Merz doesn't know what he's talking about. Washington had previously considered reducing troop numbers in Germany, but earlier plans were later cancelled. Germany, however, has significantly increased defence spending in recent years. The country's defence budget is expected to exceed €105 billion by 2027.
Now, US President Donald Trump has announced that tariffs on cars and trucks imported from the European Union will be raised to 25%. In a post on Truth Social on May 1st, Trump said the decision was linked to what he described as EU's failure to comply with the terms of a trade agreement. According to Trump, the new tariffs will take effect next week. He added that no tariffs would apply to cars and trucks manufactured at plants located in the United States. The U.S. president also said more than $100 billion is currently being invested in new car and truck plants across the country. He noted that the facilities would employ American workers. Trade between Colombia and Ecuador is falling fast because of high tariffs. The border economy is badly affected. Both countries have introduced new tariffs on each other's goods. Officials, however, say trade and transport have dropped sharply and in some areas almost stopped. This is causing job losses and more economic problems in border towns.
Trade between Colombia and Ecuador has dropped sharply because of rising tariffs. Industry groups say the border economy is being badly affected. Ecuador's President Daniel Noboa introduced a 100% tariff, which started on May 1st. The government has not said exactly which goods are included.
Es un capricho,
It escalated little by little, and it's just a show of ego and stubbornness from both presidents, which has kept on growing. This has caused social harm at our border, which used to be very dynamic in terms of imports and exports. This is just creating unemployment, and when people are unemployed, they look for other ways to survive. What alternatives do they have? We have many border crossings around here, so people will resort to smuggling. I'm not blaming them. They need to support their families, pay their debts, and send their kids to school. I'm not justifying it, but this whole situation is being caused by the decisions of the two presidents.
Colombia also imposed new tariffs of 35% to 75% on about 190 Ecuadorian products. Noboa says the measures are due to a trade deficit with Colombia and weak action against drug trafficking on the border. Colombia rejects these claims. A transport group in Ecuador says truck traffic has fallen heavily at the Rumichaca border crossing, from about 150 trucks to just a few vehicles.
This measure is practically shutting down exports. When we look, we only see a few trucks moving between Colombia and Ecuador, likely in transit to Peru, or from Peru to Colombia. This is the only trade we can see today. When the border is essentially closed to trade and only open for the movement of people and vehicles for visits, tourism and limited commerce, it feels like they're taking away half of our livelihood, half of our lifeline, half of our breath. We feel suffocated. And that's how we've described it in our SOS message to Colombia, Ecuador and the Andean community of nations, asking them to intervene in this situation and understand that the reality at our border is completely different from the perspective in Quito and Bogotá.
Tractomulas pasando de Colombia hacia Ecuador seguramente serán en tránsito hacia el Perú.
They warn the situation is causing job losses and may increase smuggling. Ecuador says the tariffs have actually improved its trade balance with Colombia for the first time. A Colombian trade official says exports have almost stopped because of the measures. Colombia has also stopped selling electricity to Ecuador, which depends on imports of medicines and pesticides from its neighbour.
Now we'll take a closer look at the key stories shaping the region. Azerbaijani officials say despite the formal end of the Armenia-Azerbaijan conflict, its humanitarian impact continues to pose a serious threat affecting the daily lives of civilians and citizens, particularly the ongoing threat posed by landmines. Assistant to the President of Azerbaijan, Hikmat Hajiev, also said in an interview in Kankendi that Azerbaijan's legal and reconstruction work in the liberated territories is proceeding in line with international law. Here is what he had to say.
Although the Armenia-Azerbaijan conflict has formally ended, the humanitarian consequences it has created remain on the agenda and continue to affect the daily lives of Azerbaijani citizens, posing an ongoing threat. Since 2020, more than 420 of our citizens have been killed or seriously injured as a result of mine explosions. Over 1 million mines were planted in Azerbaijani territories during the occupation period by the Armenian armed forces. The clearance of these mines is continuing with our own national resources. But this is a large-scale and complex task. It is also negatively affecting reconstruction and redevelopment efforts in the liberated territories. In addition, we have recently observed misleading and provocative statements from certain circles in Armenia regarding reconstruction and restoration work in Kankendi and other cities. It should be noted that large-scale reconstruction is underway in these territories. Within this process, certain illegal constructions built during the occupation period are being addressed in line with urban planning requirements under international humanitarian law and the Geneva Conventions. Any construction carried out by an occupying power that violates property rights and sovereignty is considered illegal. Therefore, the removal of such unlawful structures and their alignment with modern urban planning standards is a necessary step. And Azerbaijan is taking appropriate measures in this regard.
Now, fresh footage is adding a new dimension to the case of the former prosecutor of the International Criminal Court, Luis Moreno Ocampo. It involves efforts to influence and lobby EU institutions regarding Azerbaijan and Armenia. Here's our story.
Azerbaijani outlet Minval Politika has released additional video material. It says further details the alleged networks behind the Ocampo case, presenting it as an expansion of earlier claims of a coordinated pressure campaign involving lobbying networks, political actors, and external funding. According to the publication, the footage includes remarks attributed to former International Criminal Court prosecutor Luis Moreno Ocampo, referring to funding linked to Armenian and Russian Armenian sources, as well as discussions around campaign coordination and legal actions. The material suggests the existence of financial backing for what is described as a broader advocacy effort, including references to social media campaigns, international legal proceedings, and work initially carried out pro bono.
Dominic. Yeah. I can give you the name. I never remember the last names. I'm sorry.
But this is somebody who you hired.
The best.
But I got some money
From Armenians.
Yeah.
So, Armenians.
Means in the US.
No. Money from Armenia to Russia.
Los últimos viajan para afuera, tienen interés en los lados porque algunos, no todos, pero te diría que eso es confidencial.
Made at the beginning I did pro bono. The first report was pro bono. Then I get support from American Foundation to support a case before the ICC. Then I did also almost pro bono the social media campaign, and now there are a group of Russian Armenians who are getting a fund to finance the more sustainable campaign.
So how long will your project last?
No idea. Because now we have in the Armenian case, there's a group of people who are financing this, and we have a commitment to make after this. But what I'm doing is...
Also the minority there, also the minority in Armenia. No, group for funding the...
Well, there are some rich Armenians.
But why they are not?
Because they are Armenian. Because they are Armenian.
They are part of the government or they are NGO? No.
People like me, you know what they did in Russia?
The outlet says the videos are authentic, although the claims and content have not been independently verified, and no official response has been issued by those mentioned.
Now, the Azerbaijani Ministry of Foreign Affairs has officially summoned the EU ambassador to protest the recent resolution it labels as biased and interference. Meanwhile, more footage of an alleged campaign by Luis Moreno Ocampo against the Armenian government has emerged. Join us now to discuss this development is Elmira Talibzadeh, political analyst in the Caucasus Policy Analysis Center. Join us from Baku, Azerbaijan. Thank you for joining us.
Good afternoon. Thank you. Thank you for the invitation.
Now, after Azerbaijan's formal protest yesterday, does the European Parliament's latest resolution permanently damage the prospects of a neutral EU role in regional peace?
Thank you for your question. I think the latest developments seriously damage the perception of neutrality of some European institutions in the eyes of Azerbaijan. Also, they probably, it's important to say, do not completely eliminate the European Union's future role in the region. We know for nearly 25 years, Azerbaijan in building institutional relations with Europe. Since the late 1990s, Baku participated in parliamentary cooperation mechanism. Later, we joined the Eastern Partnership, Euronest, and developed a large-scale economic and energy cooperation with the European Union. But today European Union still accounts for around half of Azerbaijan's foreign trade turnover, while Azerbaijani gas exports in Europe increases from around 8 to 30 points by 2025. And this is exactly why the current crisis is not only symbolic, but it also, this perception became much stronger after the Second Karabakh War, after 2023, and the latest reaction from Baku became especially strong because it came during the active phase of normalization effort between Azerbaijan and Armenia. Even presidential aide Hikmet Hajiyev called the recent European Parliament resolution a diplomatic disgrace and argued that adoption of such a document immediately after imported regional context was destructive for the whole peace process. And as we know, he also stated that such actions could push the region back toward the confrontational, rather reconciliation. So the main issue now is credibility. Azerbaijan increasingly separates the European Union as an economic partner from the European Parliament as a politicized institution. Cooperation in energy, of course, in logistics, the middle corridor, the security, it will continue, of course, because both sides need it. But politically, Azerbaijan is clearly moving toward and a much more cautious and pragmatic model of engagement. So we know that European Union can still play a role in peace building, but only if some of European institutions understand that selective approach, one-sided based resolutions and politically emotional rhetoric undermine their own legitimacy as mediators in the whole South Caucasus region.
I was going to ask you this. Does this multi-layered network of finance and media create a biased ecosystem that permanently undermines trust in international building mechanisms for the region?
Yes, of course, it's all about trust. The key issues today is trust, and trust has been weakened in our eyes, in eyes of Azerbaijan. At minimum, these developments raise a very serious political, ethical, and legal questions. when a former, for example, international legal figure such as Luis Moreno Ocampo becomes deeply involved in high emotional political narratives during sensitive regional and electoral periods, naturally questions emerge about motivation, about coordination and political interest behind such activity. So the controversy surrounding Ocampo became especially, in my opinion, serious after his genocide accusation against Azerbaijan following the 2023 events in Karabakh. In Azerbaijan, all of these activities were widely viewed not as an objective legal analysis, but as a part of coordinated political campaign against Azerbaijan, aimed at delegitimation of Azerbaijan's restoration of sovereignty over its internationally recognized territories. And the scandal became even bigger after the recent videos we know leaks and report connected by Ocampo's activities. Even some of Azerbaijani members of parliament and analysts, they argued that these materials expose deeper lobbying and political influence mechanisms inside parts of European political environment.
Okay.
And now regarding elections and internal policies process, timing matters enormously. When genocide narratives, lobbying campaigns, media pressure, and emotional political messaging intensify during political sensitive moments in Armenia and the wider region, it becomes for us, for our region, very difficult to present these developments as completely disconnected from political process. So I think Azerbaijan's concern are broader than one individual. The concern is that international legal language may be selectively weaponized in order to shape regional political outcomes, influence domestic environment, and create external pressure, and etc. and so on. And from Baku's perspective, such actions do not contribute to our to restoration process or peace process. In the contrary, they, in my opinion, radicalize societies, deepen mistrust between European Union and Azerbaijan, and it creates the perception that some international actors are participating in geopolitical engineering rather than neutral peace building in the region.
All right, thank you very much, Ms. Elmira Talibzadeh, political analyst in Caucasus Policy Analysis Center, joining us from Baku, Azerbaijan. Thank you.
Thank you.
A highly complex military training exercise has been conducted in Izmir with the participation of allied nations. Special units tested their operational capabilities in difficult terrain and confined environments, simulating real-world conditions. The exercise was designed to strengthen coordination, readiness, and joint operational effectiveness among participating forces.
EFES 2026 exercise has concluded its cave, shelter and tunnel search training in Izmir with the participation of allied and partner countries. The training was organised by the Turkish Armed Forces at the Ege Army Command's 2 General Hudaverdi Ersoy Barracks training area. A total of 93 military personnel from 9 countries took part, including Azerbaijan, Kyrgyzstan, Romania, North Macedonia and Syria. The aim of the exercise was to improve the operational capabilities of military units in difficult terrain and conditions. In the first phase, drones were used to conduct reconnaissance of the cave and surrounding area. Special units then secured and surrounded the location. In the second phase, search teams entered the cave and carried out inspections. Evacuation of the wounded and transport of explosives were also practiced. A locally developed mine detector called Ozan, produced by Tubitak Bilgem, was used to scan the cave route and mark suspicious points. According to the scenario, the terrorist elements inside the cave were neutralized and the area was fully secured. All caves, tunnels and shelters used in the exercise were subsequently destroyed and the training was successfully completed.
All right, that's all we have for now. Thank you for watching and stay tuned to WIN News.